Joining us now is Eric Trump, the second son of Donald Trump, presidential candidate. Been on our show many times. Eric, good to have you with us.
Hey, John, it's great to be back.
Hey, man, it's fabulous to be in the city in Manhattan. And just talking to people, I'm in the Garment District, which I love being down in this area of the city because you get a little bit of a different feel. Not a lot of the tourists in this area. You get real New Yorkers, workers, and I spent several hours just talking to people and a lot of enthusiasm for your father. I think it's going to get a big plurality in Manhattan. What say you?
Yeah, listen, there's no question about it. And, I think New York likes no nonsense and, people who, speak from the heart and people who are a little tough and brash. And quite frankly, that's exactly what this country needs. I mean, you need somebody who goes out and actually talks about the issues, doesn't peter-patter around the topics. And, that's my father. And New York has treated us so well our entire lives, and it's going to treat us great tomorrow.
Well, I tell you what, a lot of enthusiasm, no doubt. And I was telling my listeners a little bit earlier, I drove in from Virginia, and the plates of my vehicle say 16 Trump. And so going through New Jersey, I got a kind of a mixed reaction there going up the New Jersey Turnpike. But I got to tell you, Eric, as soon as I hit New York, as soon as I went through the tunnel, I got so many high fives and thumbs up. And it was pretty interesting as I drove into the area. Now, we've got 6 primaries coming up in the next 8 days. I think your father is going to win all 6 of them. How do things look?
Well, listen, they look great. We have obviously Pennsylvania, right? That's coming up. We've got Maryland, we've got Connecticut, we've got New Jersey that's coming up fairly soon, and a bunch of other states. And we're going to do great in those. I mean, we're going to win Pennsylvania, we're going to win Connecticut, we're going to win Maryland, we're going to win New Jersey. We're going to win California, and I think we have a lot of other states in there as well that we're going to win. So, I always say, John, we're coming home. The entire time we were fighting on somebody else's territory. We were fighting down in Texas and Oklahoma and the southern states. And you saw, obviously, how well we did in so many of those southern states and Florida and, the sweep of the table there and Nevada. And, obviously there were candidates who had lived in Nevada for 6, 7, 8 years. And now we're home. I mean, we come back to our territory, and it's going to be impossible to stop us. I mean, it's really going to be impossible to stop us. And I'm proud of him. He deserves it. He's done such an unbelievable job with the campaign. He's self-funding the whole thing, as you've seen. You have people like Bernie Sanders and Hillary who are going out and raising $30-40 million a month. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And there's going to be thousands of people out there who literally, can call either of those candidates at any time when they need a favor. And that's not how the American government should be run.
No, look, you're exactly right. And you kind of see the shenanigans going on in Wyoming and Colorado on Saturday. Senator Cruz winning another voterless selection of delegates, basically, where the voters are locked out and party insiders decide on who the delegates are. But now we've got real primaries coming up with real voters. New York tomorrow, I think you're going to have a tremendous day there. We're really looking forward to it. Then the week after, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. Yeah, I think you run the table. And then go to Indiana, having won 6 straight. Look, I think the narrative after Indiana is going to change to, gee, what's going to happen on the second ballot to, gee, Trump is going to get well over the 1237 he needs.
Well, I've always said that. I mean, I've always thought that we got to the 1237 and we do it handedly. And, obviously, I don't think this is going to happen. But even if you fall a couple delegates short, you still have the unbound delegates. But I think we're going to get to 1237. And by the way, that's an amazing feat considering you had 17 people who started running, right? And now you still have 3 people in the race. But, I mean, you really have 5 people or 6 people that have delegates, that maintain delegates. Obviously Rubio still has delegates. Kasich is staying in there just to keep his delegates. I think Bush has a couple delegates. And so it's really an amazing thing. I mean, it's really, really an amazing thing that with as many people in the race as we have, he's still going to get to the 51%.
What about the delegate selection process? Look, there's no question we're getting outmaneuvered in some of these states. We don't have necessarily the ground infrastructure in place. For instance, in Virginia on Saturday in the 10th district, Cruz defeated the Trump people. He got 3 delegates there. The same thing kind of went on in some areas of Georgia and other areas where your dad carried the district big, and on the second ballot, he's just not getting the delegates. Are you guys internally looking at that?
Well, it's less the infrastructure, John. I mean, honestly, it's, I think, the fact that he's not part of the old boys club in Washington, D.C., which is a major disadvantage when it comes to these people, right? I mean, he's not accepting anybody's funding. He's self-funding his campaign. No one can control him. And make no mistake, I mean, you know better than anybody how much power the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. have, and kind of the old boys, Republican, the old guard. They can't control him, and therefore they're fearful, and therefore they want to override the people's votes. I mean, they want to, effectively pick and choose who becomes the presidential candidate up and above millions and millions of votes and people standing in lines for hours and hours to vote for the people that they want. And that flies in the face of democracy. I mean, it just flies in the face of democracy. And it's very, very sad. And quite frankly, the Republicans are going to have a real problem, if they turn off millions and millions of voters because they try and shoehorn somebody in that wasn't elected by the people. I mean, that's just not an American principle, and it's certainly going to backfire on the party.
Well, look, it is going to backfire, and what you have happening, Eric, around the country in these various delegate selection processes is an unholy alliance between anybody that's anti-Trump and anybody for Cruz. So if you're an establishment Republican that's been in these things forever and you know how to game the system and you show up at them, you know how the rules work, a lot of these people, they're not for Cruz, but they just see him as a vehicle to get to a second ballot and then put their own person in. So everybody gangs up on them. Now, that's a lot of what's going on. So it's not like Cruz is winning. It's that everybody is ganging up on the outsiders because they don't want him in. I mean, that's John, a lot of it.
John, we're millions and millions of votes ahead. I think right now we're 3 million votes ahead. After tomorrow, we're going to be 4 or 5 million votes ahead. After the 26th, we're going to be millions and millions and millions of votes further, ahead. I mean, here you have a state like Colorado whose GOP party comes out and tweets, "Never Trump." I mean, think about that. I mean, that's like a judge coming out and saying, "I dislike the defendant," the first day of trial. I mean, that doesn't work. I mean, these are supposed to be governing boards that are totally impartial and that carry out an election. So for GOP to come out and tweet "Never Trump," I mean, it's insane. It's insane. And quite frankly, the Republicans are going to lose a party by doing that. I mean, you're going to have a lot of people who are disenfranchised. They show up to the polls. They want to vote for somebody. Their vote doesn't matter. They're told by a party, and, the definition of a party is a group of people. They're told by, effectively a party that their vote doesn't matter. I mean, people are going to be incredibly upset. They're going to lose their motivation. They're going to shrug off a political system that they think is totally corrupt. And it's very sad. I mean, it's terrible. And quite frankly, based on the fact that we're millions of votes ahead, which is what you need in a primary, right? When we run against Hillary ultimately, I mean, you would think that a Republican Party would embrace that, would embrace the highest voter turnout that, quite frankly, the party has ever seen, and would stand behind the person who could actually beat her. So it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not a politician, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, look, you're not a politician, which is what the appeal is, but you hit it on the head. You're millions of votes ahead. You brought all these new parties in. You think that the outsiders, basically, even the term outsiders is not. It's just getting people involved in the political system that have checked out. That's what your father's been able to do. You can call them outsiders, but it's people that are engaging that have never engaged before. You're not going to win a general without doing what your dad has done. So that's why instead of these people that are being brought into the system should be embraced, instead, look, there's a lot of people out there. They want to control the party, keep it small, control it all. And that's basically.
John, we're also bringing over independents and Democrats. Which name a political figure on the GOP side, on the Republican side in history, that's really brought over independents, maybe Reagan or so, but that just brought over independents and Democrats in mass numbers. You
have
look
to
at
go back to Reagan.
They've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Democrats and independents register as Republicans to come out and vote for my father. And again, you would think a party would embrace that with open arms. I mean, parties always want to grow in size. They always want to grow in number. This was their perfect opportunity to do that. no Democrat, no independent's going to revert over to vote for Cruz. I mean, that much I can tell you. The only place that Cruz can win are these small, little, super closed caucus states. And again, that's why we're millions of votes ahead of him. Unfortunately, those states are the exact states that aren't indicative of the general election and ultimately going after Hillary. So it's really a failed thought process that the establishment is running under, and it's sad for the party, but it doesn't matter. We're going to get to 1237. We're going to win irrespective of all this nonsense.
Look, I ask this question to my listeners every day. I've yet to get an answer. Name me one state that Ted Cruz can win in 2016 that Mitt Romney didn't win in 2012, and then give me the analysis behind it. I've said this for months. I haven't gotten a straight answer because none exist. I mean, so you got a lot of these people, Eric, they would rather lose than win with your dad, and that's really one of the issues. So we've got to be able to turn this thing.
Well, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head, John. I mean, look, you saw the numbers that we won Florida by. Astronomical numbers. As a Republican in the general election, you need to win Florida. We'll win Florida. There's just no question about it. It's almost a second home to my father. You look at New York. In a general election, we will win New York. I really feel that we'll win New York. I also think states like New Jersey and Pennsylvania will cross over. They're obviously battleground states. Well, Pennsylvania is always a battleground state. I truly think that we'll win Pennsylvania by leaps and bounds. So it's really fascinating. I mean, I think that analysis nails it. But if we can pull New York, if we can pull Florida, pull over Pennsylvania, I mean, for all intents and purposes, if everything else is status quo along the lines of how the states traditionally vote, I think you get the general election. I mean, if not, you're right there.
Well, the other thing is you're going to put Michigan in play, and I think that's another state where your dad would have a heck of a shot to win. We haven't won Michigan, I think, since 1984, I believe. So you'd put a bunch of states in play. So, look, you go back to the other candidate. He cannot win. Everybody knows he can't win, but some people would rather lose than win with your father because they can't control him. They can't tell him what to do.
Yeah.
And if he was in the Oval Office and some of these Wall Street gangster, bankster, one global slave trade lobbyist came in there, he would laugh at them and throw them out. That's the issue. That's the bottom line. That's what this whole thing is about at the end of the day. They can't tell him what to do.
Absolutely.
All right. So, look, I've only got a couple more minutes. We're with Eric Trump. Eric, in my race in the 4th District in Virginia, we are running for Trump delegates. We have a team put together, myself, Councilman Robert Ike, and my wife, Ann. And we've got the best shot to deliver 3 Trump delegates to Cleveland. There's some other areas where we're in good shape also, but we would love to get Eric Trump to our convention on May 21st in Wakefield. If you could work that out, so that's probably our best chance to win. And you've got an invitation if your schedule is such that you could make it. It'd be fabulous to have you there.
And you've been such an amazing friend. You were the guy who came out from day one who said, "This, listen, we're going to go all the way with this." And you're one of the very few people who A, said that and B, predicted it. I mean, it's really amazing. You've said it since day one, and you've been so wonderful to us, and I really appreciate everything.
Well, Eric, we thank you for your time today. We look forward to having you on the next several days as we look forward to a big victory in New York tomorrow, where I still think you're going to get all 95 and get the mojo back. I want to thank Eric Trump for his time. More information, go to donaldjtrump.com. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network.